Come now, all you mangy dogs. Swab the decks and hoist the sails. The guns on board be needing some proper manning. Pieces of 8 and a fine wench on your arm. If your work be not too shoddy. Careful not to flounder too badly, though, or you may have to dance the hempen jig as we see you to Davy Jones. The Chappie, my boy. On with the show.
Welcome, everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to yet another weekly edition of Pirate Radio Podcasts. It's episode number 351. We have got author and researcher Jack Cary on board with us this week, courtesy of Dreagus Productions. Before we get into Jack and his bio, however, let us remind you that, as always, I myself am your trusted host and companion of these high, often all too intrepid digital seas, Jaffe Ryder. WPRPN.com is the website you'll want to drop by, take a look at, sign up as free. All you simply need is a username, password, and email. Be sure as well to check out our show description end of things. We've got a Patreon presence where you can engage completely at no charge whatsoever. If you'd like to gain access to the premium content, the bootleg exclusive items, that starts at $1 essentially to unlock the multimedia packages that we have in place, running in conjunction with World Pirate Radio News. Half of everything going directly back to charity. That's how it works here, via the Robin Hood hashtag WWRHD. What would Robin Hood do? Speaking of which, don't forget the great quality merchandise we have available up for grabs via places such as galacticfire.com, Teespring, and TeePublic. We've got other ways of helping us out, of course, too, including BitChute, Odyssey, Minds, and elsewhere, where the digital approach, that end of things, is really beneficial and appreciated. So, liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit subscription, notification buttons, and passing word along to friends, family, or co-workers really helps to ignite a great synergetic energy that any independent underground grassroots movement or endeavor very much depends upon. So, all right, over to Jack's biography. A paranormal investigative journalist with 30 plus years researching unexplained phenomena. This week's featured guest is Jack Cary. He is also founder of the Paranormal Intelligence Agency, a group dedicated to analyzing the world's paranormal intelligence and developing subsequent evidential-based theories. An internationally published author with 10 paranormal-themed books to his name, Jack has appeared in numerous docu-series dealing with various related topics. He's also host of Dreagus Productions' Paranormal Intelligence Agency radio show, airing Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central. So, a few little hiccups there with the Jitsi, getting that VoIP up and running, voice over internet protocol. But we have both Jack and Sonia, Sonia Galactic, oft times co-host and co-producer. Actually saw a woman who at this point in time very busy on a whole host of fronts. Sonia, I mean, you've been helping out with Christian's book, Christian La Terre, The Boys
Yep.
of Montauk, and working with that birthday deadline, and just to make Jappy ever so happy as well too,
Yes,
with the
yes.
updated website. I know it's putting a lot of pressure on you, so just do your best. That's all we ever ask. But yeah,
Of course.
merchandising director. I mean, you've just the energy that you. I don't know where you get it all. Frankly, I guess you have a little bit of free time on your hands, but you're very much you're totally invested and
Yes,
committed.
I am for sure. Yep.
In
Thank you.
fact, you even helped to bring Jack to the table here this week too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Exciting.
indeed. Now we hear a little bit of a background audio delay, sort of bleed feed coming in. Not sure where, if that's through YouTube or wherever, but just make sure wherever that is to either just mute it out or turn it way, way down. There shouldn't be any more problems. So big shout out to Christian La Terre, Amos 777, Sonia, of course, active and engaged already over on D Live. Keep a keen eye and look out for the digital love that may be coming our way from time to time. Sonia and Christian engaging us over on Facebook, Amos on YouTube, and Jack Cary waiting ever so patiently. So thank you, Jack. You know, this is going to run for approximately 90 minutes. We had a bit of a slight delay there with the intro because of the Jitsi issues. You've got your YouTube turned on, don't you? You might have to, you might want to either turn that down or some sort of browser there. There you go. How you doing? Thanks for taking the time, making the effort. It's great to have you join us here down in Skullport Harbor.
Wow, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
We have a mutual friend, maybe a few, as a matter of fact, in the way of Mark, of course, via Dreagus Productions.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not sure who else. Have you done any work with Roger Hansen to this point?
I have not.
Uh,
So
oh, you haven't? Do you know of Roger?
I'm unfamiliar with
Oh,
Roger.
okay. All right. Well, you know, as the way Mark likes to, go about doing things, we hear ourselves very much, committed to cross pollination, and people are looking for guests or would like some support in some way with content or what have you. Not a problem. But maybe at some point Roger will have you on his show, or
That would be great.
yeah. And I wonder when I say that which one, because he has about 5 or 6 on the go at all times. Speaking
That's
of,
great.
yeah, these little energizer bunnies. But let's hear a little bit about you then, your background, your backstory, and what got you on this path initially to explore the. It's almost like an X Files styled world that you seem very much interested in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been a long journey, 30 years plus actually. And it's been a lifelong fascination with the unexplained and with paranormal phenomenon. And, I came to a point in my life, I think it was around the age of, well, it was right before I turned 20 years old. And I was just about to get out of the Navy. And I basically came to a point in my life where I decided that I was going to make a real effort at trying to get to the bottom of what had been a lifelong fascination with different mysteries. And I really began my pursuit then. So, I'm 52 now. So what is that? 32 years, I guess. So, um, but, my pursuit of truth with paranormal phenomenon led me to found the Paranormal Intelligence Agency. And that was in an effort to really, it was designed initially to be a clandestine investigative group that infiltrated other paranormal investigative groups. And that whole point was to see if, in fact, they had the evidence they said that they possessed, or if, in fact, it was other than. Was it not real evidence? And really, it wasn't long during that pursuit I discovered that there was an overwhelming amount of evidence for various kinds of paranormal phenomenon. And at that time, I became acquainted with a worldwide famous cryptozoologist named J.C. Johnson. And he had read about my investigations in a New York magazine called Vocative that ran a big article on my investigations called Inside the Mind of a Paranormal Intelligence Agent. And he contacted me because he had a cryptozoology case that sort of spanned the barrier between paranormal and regular cryptozoology, and we sort of hit it off, and that started a multi-year partnership in which we investigated all kinds of cases that became really world known at that time. And slowly that led me into publishing books about the various mysteries that we were investigating. So, it's been a long journey, but I have learned a ton over a 30-year period. So,
10 publications to your name to this point. What we're looking at ufology, hauntings, presumably, and what else?
yeah, I grew up in it.
How about reincarnation or NDEs? Taking much of a look at
Not really, I am fascinated with the idea of the afterlife. However, I grew up in an old antebellum mansion in southern Oklahoma. It was built before the Civil War, and it was completely haunted. So my whole childhood was filled with specters and with completely black shadow entities walking across the house, with dishes being taken out of my mother's cupboards at night in the kitchen and all being shattered into 1,000 tiny little pieces on the floor, which happened a number of times, and no sound. Um, Things like that were a normal part of my childhood. And for me, as a paranormal investigator, ghosts really don't present a mystery. For me, I think that there's ample evidence to prove that ghosts exist. The real question for me as a paranormal investigator became where afterlife is concerned is what is the mechanism by which one becomes a ghost? You know what I mean? Because this whole idea of, well, they have unfinished business, that kind of a thing is probably just something to make us feel better
well,
about the
often,
situation. Why couldn't it?
well, they die. People who often are found to have died under very violent or sudden circumstances. That seems to be quite
Right.
common, is it not?
Right, and that actually speaks right to my point, which is why isn't it possible that within the matrix that we find ourselves, there's not some sort of moth trap mechanism by which you just get stuck in this reality in a shadowy form, and it's not anything pleasant, and it's not anything good, and it's not anything that we think of as an afterlife. That's completely plausible because we know so very little about ghosts, even after decades of time. We know that they're there. We know that once in a while communication can happen between the two. But in most cases where a disembodied voice is recorded, etc., often the entity is asking for help of some kind. That's always stood out in my mind. But basically, for me, ghosts aren't really a mystery. I know they exist, but the real question is, why do they exist? And I'm not sure that we've developed any sort of measurement devices that are going to give us any kind of real insight up to date. That doesn't mean that some sort of technology is not going to be developed, in the future, and we'll begin to make real inroads into ghost research. But right now, it's basically the same repetitious findings over and over and over again.
Stand by. Oh, sorry, we muted ourselves out there while you were unpacking a few of your spooky related thoughts and insights. So, uh, what you just shared with us a few moments ago regarding the house that you grew up in, how did your parents end up there?
My mother grew up in the small little town that this house was in, and as a little girl, she always dreamed about living in it. It was the big house on top of the hill, and it's a tiny, back then. I think even today that town only has like 18,000 people in it. So back then, when I was a kid, you're talking about maybe 5, 6,000 people
Did she
at
live to
best.
regret it? Did she live to regret it as the hauntings or the haunting uh, became more
Well,
evident?
yeah, it's very interesting because it was really at the time when a lot of the activity was beginning to get more aggressive that my parents actually ended up making the decision to move me and my sister to a large city in the state. and
Oh,
um and so we ended up moving from that place, so it ended up not being something she had to really truly battle with. But
did your parents ever acknowledge what was taking place or address the whole matter?
largely they did not.
They
And
didn't talk about it.
I'll never forget one of the scarier memories I have as a child of walking up a flight of steps in that house, and my sister's bedroom was directly at the flight of steps, and she was down in the living room watching TV, and my parents were way down the hallway in their bedroom, and the room was barely lit. It was like light was coming in from outside, but it was nighttime, and it was like the street light, and I could see clearly three large shadow entities walking across the room, and one of them turned, and I could see the head turning to look at me, and that's when I took off, screaming and yelling for my parents down the hallway. And whether or not they ever believed the thing, I was actually seeing the things I was seeing, I don't know. But
How old were you at the time?
oh God, I was 8, 9, 10 years old at that time. So
Oh, okay. So, Sonia, is there anything that you'd like to pick up on here before we carry along or shift gears and focus?
I think that's totally like fascinating, actually, to have such an experience while you're growing up. Wow, this is
Yeah,
crazy. Uh
indeed.
huh.
So that's, I mean, how much of this
hmm
content is included in the books that you've published? just
Well,
regarding
the
your.
books I've
Mhm.
published so far, I haven't included much about my childhood,
Oh, it's too bad.
but there's there were so many cases and different theories and working models that I've developed over a 30-year period, that's really what goes into my paranormal books. And I was me and JC Johnson were both part of the Sasquatch Genome Project.
Right.
So and that is something that's well known in Bigfoot circles. There's been people that have tried to debunk the Sasquatch Genome Project by attacking Dr. Melba Ketchum, the lady who actually did the geneticist who did the testing. But I can tell you, having been there and seen behind the curtains, if you will, of what went on, there were over 100 samples sent in of DNA samples from the best researchers out there in North America. And to a T, every one of them tested the same. There's no way that every one of those samples were contaminated with human DNA,
Is this
which is what
fur or feces, or what are we talking exactly?
it came in various forms. The piece that we supplied to her was actually apparently looked like a piece of torn off knuckle that Native American eyewitnesses in the Navajo Nation actually saw the creature leave at the scene. See, that's the other thing people don't realize. Like during this period of time, we were doing work with the executive director of the University of New Mexico. And he was actually interested in our Bigfoot investigative work and went out in the field with us numerous times and accompanied us on one particular trip where we were notified by the Navajo Nation that they had two groups within an 80-mile area of each other. They were 80 miles apart. Both reports came in within 24 hours, and both reports included eyewitnesses who saw the creatures leaving DNA at the scene. So we took Dr. Christopher Dyer with us, the executive director of the University of New Mexico. We went to both scenes. We collected DNA. We had the famous investigator Robert Kreider with us on this particular DNA collection, and we collected the eyewitness testimony of what they saw and how they saw the creature leaving DNA at the scene. In one of the cases, the people that own the property saw one of these creatures sort of crouched down next to this old, splintery, ramshackle shed they had on the property. And when it got up and ran off, it left probably about 1,000 hair strands all tangled up in these splinters. And at the second DNA site, we had a situation where we had a group of Navajos that were cutting wood, which is what they do all summer long. They cut wood for their fires in the wintertime. And they were using chainsaws, and they apparently spooked one of these Bigfoot creatures that took off running. This creature didn't realize that on the other across this copse of trees through this little forested area was another Navajo gentleman that was there cutting wood with an axe. And this creature sees the second gentleman while it's fleeing, takes another 90-degree turn while it's looking at this guy, and smacks right into a 7-foot tree, breaks it right in half, and leaves blood, fur all over this thing. We documented Dr. Christopher Dyer taking the DNA, a field biologist, PhD, totally credentialed. No way it was contaminated. Absolutely no way. We test it. It goes through the testing. It comes back identical to the samples in the Sasquatch Genome Project. And the fact is, these creatures aren't what people think they are. They are in part modern human. They do have on the mitochondrial side, which is the mother's lineage, uh, Homo sapien DNA. These are a type of human hybrid, and that is something that is still being digested, if you will, by the Bigfoot community, but it's something that keeps showing up time and again every time somebody collects what appears to be a credible DNA sample. It always comes back as part human.
And the other part?
The other part comes back unknown, but
Unknown.
closely resembling primate. Yeah.
Primate. Okay, so well,
Yeah, see, and this is the problem that we ran into with these DNA samples is that anytime a DNA sample is collected anywhere in the world, it gets they have the body, they pluck the DNA right off of it, and that sample goes to what's called the World Genetic Bank. The World Genetic Bank then logs that piece of DNA as being positively this particular animal, right? So if you send in a sample to the World Genetic Bank and they run it through their database and it doesn't match anything, all that means is that nobody's ever brought in an animal and pulled that DNA off of it. And because of that, every time they see that there's human DNA in it, these geneticists always say, well, this is contaminated. It was contaminated when it was taken. They say that over and over again, when in fact, it's just the natural DNA of the creature.
contaminated. What would lead, I'm sorry, what would lead them to conclude it was contaminated based on the results? How so?
Yeah, because the results keep coming back with a Homo sapien DNA. So of course they're going to say, well, the person that
I see.
collected
I
the
see.
DNA left,
But every
left some of
time,
their DNA
yeah. But
on the sample.
but time and again, what you're finding
Right.
then is Homo sapien on the mother's side. I'm not from. This is not my
Yes.
bag of tricks, really. So mitochondrial strain or side. This is just two mitochondrial.
Yeah,
That's
which would be
strand of DNA.
yeah, right, which would be the female lineage of the
Okay, and
creatures.
then the father is unknown, although resembling
Is
to
unknown, but
primate.
resembling primate, yeah. And it's very interesting because you have these ancient accounts of, going back to biblical times, like for instance the story of Jacob and Esau. Well, Esau is described as being a wild man of the woods and he's covered in long red hair, right?
Right.
He comes when he's born, he's like clutching the ankle of Jacob when he comes out. It's all a parable, and it seems like it's describing the splitting off of humanity into two different branches. And Esau runs off and becomes a wild man of the woods. He can chase down wild prey on foot, and he brings it back to his dad. His dad will like pet him on the head and say, "Good boy." It's that kind of a thing. And Jacob goes off and becomes the first tent dwelling nation. So you can kind of see where that lineage splits off. But there's all of these ancient indications that these creatures go back as far as the DNA kind of seemed to insinuate to Dr. Ketchum that whatever happened, this interaction, this crossbreeding, or this genetic experimentation seemed to occur sometime during the Younger Dryas period, which was around 15,000 years ago.
So was this all the result of potentially, hypothesis here, the Nephilim breeding with humanity?
Possibly, and there are Bigfoot researchers out there. The late Scott Carpenter was one of them who believed that the Bigfoot species were the Nephilim. They were the offspring of these so-called fallen angels and human women. And it could be that, Genesis 6:4 that describes that encounter is actually just describing a genetic manipulation that occurred. I can tell you when they really examined the DNA, and this was coming from, behind the scenes, having personal phone calls with the geneticist and everything else, the DNA scared them. There are indications that it was manipulated And by that, I mean there are DNA strands within this DNA that appear to come from many different kinds of species. It's almost like somebody took different genetic abilities from different species and all infused them all into the same creature, combining human DNA. And there's a reason why people think these creatures are paranormal, because you're talking about a creature that can see you from 2 miles away. It can
Really?
smell you from 3 miles away.
Hmm.
It can run 75 miles an hour, we estimate, over uneven mountainous terrain. That's cheetah speed. If you spook one 10 minutes later, it's miles away from you in heavy bush. And so people think it's easy to track one of these things or to come across them. And why haven't they found a body? Well, you're talking about something that has a human like intelligence, but with superhuman like DNA. And a creature like that travels in small family units, that does something with its dead, apparently, which is why we don't find the carcasses, can and does stay hidden in America's 93 million heavily wooded acres.
Well, yeah. What of the ufological tie-in that has been raised? And then what really kind of keyed me into this was someone mentioning back in the day, drawing listeners' attention to the fact that maybe George Lucas, the Star Wars uh, movies, and Chewbacca tie-in was not just all a coincidence. That maybe Lucas was, in the loop or knowledgeable of something that most people are not.
Yeah, and more as we progress into the future, people are speculating that somebody at some point told Lucas a lot of stuff that was true, and he incorporated it into his
Well,
movies.
so often they're seen.
But
Is
you
it,
can see our progression as humanity.
how common are these are reports of UFOs and Bigfoot? I mean, it's more often than what most people realize.
Very, very absolutely. And this is one of those areas where cryptozoology sort of stretches across into paranormal research. And the fact is, it was the late great Jonathan Keel of the Mothman Prophecies who compiled a statistical database to show that in a full 20% of all credible Bigfoot sightings, what investigators would say, yeah, this is a credible sighting. And 20% of those, a UFO is also reported at the scene. Not only that, but I personally was with a team in the Chusca Mountains, and we were tracking what the Navajo call Yaetzo, which is their word for Bigfoot.
Yeah,
And we have professional Navajo trackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we had professional Navajo trackers on horseback. This is an area you couldn't even take a 4-wheel drive into. And all of a sudden, we come out onto a flat field, right? And it's got that New Mexico sort of loamy, sandy soil to it with scrub brush everywhere. And there is a track line of 19-inch footprints that are just deeply embedded into the soil, and they go on for a couple of 100 yards, right? And all of a sudden, right in the middle of this field, right where the track should continue, they just stop. And there's no other tracks, there's no sign at all of any other activity within this field. And my partner JC looked down and started shaking his head, and I looked up and started shaking my head because I immediately knew what had spooked this animal. At least I thought I knew. And you're talking about halfway through the track line, this thing goes from a 6-foot stride to a 10-foot stride, and you can see where it dug in, right? This is right where our trackers identified the point where the thing took off in a dead sprint. You're talking about a creature, an apex predator that must have been 8, 9 feet tall, weigh 800 to 1,000 pounds, with a 19-inch footprint in its prime habitat. All of a sudden got so spooked that it takes off in a run. That doesn't make any sense unless what it spooked it had come from the sky. And having dealt with the Genome Project and realizing that they have human DNA, is it too far of a stretch for us to consider the theory that since humans are being abducted by aliens for their DNA, these creatures might also be part of that same genetic experimentation?
Well, maybe that was a meeting point. You might make sure you turn your speakers down there, Jack, just with the monitor feedback loop. It's on. It's a
Sure.
bit of a delay too, by a few seconds, because we're on different sides of the world. But yeah, like, who knows? Like I think I suspect my gut feeling is, and I'm no expert, no, not to the extent that the likes of you or is JC still with us? I thought I'd heard that he may have passed.
Yep, he passed away. Unexpectedly, really. He came down with double pneumonia.
When was
And
this?
it hit him. This was about 5 years ago now.
So this is
So
this is during the whole scamdemic, or what exactly?
just before that.
Just prior.
So it
Okay.
wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I thought
definitely
he.
wasn't COVID, but he had moved to northern Minnesota to do some Bigfoot research up there on a property that
Mhm.
a guy was having activity on, and came down with double pneumonia, and it literally took him within just a couple of days.
How old was he?
So, oh gosh, he was, I think, 62 at the time. He was a young guy. I
Was
mean,
he
you're still pretty young at
was
that
he a
age.
smoker?
Well, he vaped. He didn't smoke, but yeah.
Oh, vapey. Yeah, we have a friend here of the show who, young guys, jeez, he's barely even 30, and vaping, and now he has stage 2 cancer. So what
Wow.
the connection that he, and maybe it sounds like his doctor, have made is that this is a result of, that awful, unfortunate habit. So be forewarned, people. Not that we're here to offer any formal medical, legal, or financial advice. If you're looking for support in any of those areas, be sure to seek out the appropriate, you know, appropriately certified and credentialed professionals, either in your area or through the interwebs. And by the way, let us remind you that the views and opinions expressed on behalf of myself, the show's host, and our guests do not necessarily reflect those of either the show's uh, audience members or our sponsors. So, having said that, let's remind you this is um, feature show number 351 of Pirate Radio Podcasts with author and parapolitical researcher Jack Cary. No relation to Jim, I'm assuming, but wouldn't that be something?
Not at all, unfortunately, but
So yeah, I just had to get that one in there. I was thinking in the lead up to things here. So this is amazing. This is amazing. I just love these stories. So that is contained within. It has to be contained within one of your books depicting of
it
what you just
is.
shared with
I,
us
I
here.
wrote a book, Bigfoot Unleashed, that has all this information in it, along with really good photographic evidence of us collecting that DNA and everything else. So,
Your childhood,
um,
like your childhood. You've got it. You've done 10. I'm sure you pump out a few more in the next upcoming number of years. So hopefully you'll reflect upon, think about what took place during the course of your childhood. Were there any other further? We'll come back to the whole Bigfoot thing and UFOs and so forth in a few minutes here. But anything else during your childhood that struck you as a little peculiar or helped to put you on the path, as it were, to where you currently find yourself? There was, you didn't have any sightings or anything like that, did you, during your
No, but
youth?
I did grow up in southeastern Oklahoma, which is a hotbed of Bigfoot activity, and was so as a child, and I was fully aware of that as a child.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Myself as well.
my
British Columbia.
yeah,
I had these Bigfoot books that
uh-huh.
my dad mostly gave to us because of, we spent a little time out in the bush hunting, fishing, and yeah. So, but when I said sightings, I meant also perhaps, from this heavenly sense as well, or nothing, not an experiencer yourself at any point during.
Yeah, I do have a distinct memory of
Here we
two
go.
little uh, two little guys. Having been in my bedroom, I remember looking out my bedroom window down at them as they walked off into the mist. I'll never forget that memory. But and it's sporadic. I have little flashes of it, but two little gray guys,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Carn
remember seeing a number of anomalous lights as a child. But
the little short little guys wandering away into the mist, drunken carnival midgets with a little too much free time on their hands. How about that?
that's right.
Yeah.
Wearing gray alien mask.
Yeah. Did you see their faces?
I did, but as a child, it's almost like the memory I have is watching the back of their bodies as they're walking away from me.
Yeah.
You know,
Into the mist.
into the mist. Yep.
Was it?
And I remember being very excited as a child, and I would tell people randomly, "They'll be back soon. They'll be back soon." And I knew what I was referring to, but they didn't understand what I was saying.
Uh, and did they
So
return?
I assume so, but that's the main memory I have
I see.
of those experiences. And I had very strange experiences all the time till I joined the military. Distinctively an abduction experience when I was in high school, and just being frozen, completely frozen during the event. But it was like after I joined the Navy and I started serving on a nuclear submarine, it was almost like I was inaccessible anymore or something.
Interesting. How about that? So, were attempts ever made to recruit you for any, you know, uh, classified or did you have any special security clearance? Were any attempts made to recruit you into special programs during your stint in the Navy, which I'm not sure how long that ran for, number of years?
Yeah, I was there for a regular 4-year tour, but I received a top secret SCI security clearance, which is above top secret, and I specialized in encrypted communications for nuclear submarines, and I served on a spy submarine, and we were a special operations boat, so our main patrol was North Korea, and we had all kinds of specialized technology that allowed us to collect data. But that was sort of the mental state and environment that I was coming out of when I decided to go full steam into paranormal research and investigation. So
Speaking of North Korea, do you know where it is I'm currently based out of?
now, where are you based out of?
The southern portion of the peninsula.
Are you nice?
Yeah. So
Well,
I guess there's things that you did you have any R? You must have had R&R. Time off, uh, shore leave,
you
as it
know,
were,
we
via
were
the south.
we were we were a special operations boat. We never really pulled into any port to let people know that we were there. We did 2-week missions
Mm.
generally, and then we were right back at Pearl Harbor again. So I was
S-
stationed at Pearl. So
So would you hand it off to another sub? The
yeah, I'm sure.
responsibility.
Even though we wouldn't know who that was, what sub that was, because that's all compartmentalized. But
Right.
yeah,
I see. That's you would at the highest levels they would know because yeah, someone has to be
right,
giving the
right.
orders. So above top secret. So I don't know how does that work exactly, and presumably, well, you could maybe outline things in a rough manner for us. The classified the ratings. I guess the levels of security clearance, as it were, that there
Mhm.
presumably are certain
Well,
things that you cannot share with us even to this day because of having signed off on the NDA, as it were. Is that right?
right, but SCI means secret compartmentalized information. It basically just allows you to see a bigger portion of the overall puzzle than somebody with just a top secret clearance. And the reason why they give an SCI clearance to nuclear submarine communication experts is because you're reading all of the communications coming to the boat, no matter what that is. So you need to have clearance to be able to read whatever that is. So
Okay, so and well, and 4 years in, and that was enough for you. Is that right?
that was enough for me.
Did you pick up a
I had
pension of
had
any
enough.
kind? Did you any benefits that you managed to?
Oh no, only when you're in for like 20 years.
So so
I
so
look at
wow. So you don't like if you were to get like the VA, you have no support from the VA at
Oh
any
yeah,
point.
you get VA benefits. Sure, sure. You get
I
VA benefits.
just basic sort of sort of.
Just basic, yeah, healthcare and stuff like that.
Wow, it's pretty good.
So
What were some of the the biggest memorable sort of takeaways? And have you written a book regarding your the time spent on the submarine? You consider
no,
that?
nothing largely, paranormal happened to me while I was in the Navy. I did see at one point, and it makes me wonder today when I see these reports of USOs all the time. But at one point, I saw the sonar guys come out of the sonar room and they were ghost white. They had apparently picked up something down there that shouldn't have been there.
Wow.
And that's it. Yeah, and that's interesting to me because, Tim Burchett, the congressman from Tennessee, who's on the Senate House Intelligence Committee for UAP disclosure, recently came out and publicly announced that he had personal knowledge that the Navy was tracking something in the world's oceans that was over a mile wide, which is fascinating to me because there are predictions coming out of the WebBot, which some people out there are probably familiar with, that are saying that pretty soon, within the next few months, a lot of attention is going to be turned to the oceans of the world and the idea that aliens are living in our oceans. So,
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me or a lot of other people, I guess. So that's yeah. Yeah, are you familiar with the story of Jimmy Carter? And you know how he ran on a one of his policies was uh as with, Trump and the Epstein list, wink wink, nudge nudge, but total disclosure of the UFO files under Carter's time in office. Apparently, that it was done. They did disclose, but it, here's the kicker. Here's the catch. It was all heavily redacted. It was all whatever that was put out there was
uh,
heavily redacted. Probably limited hangout too, in the sense that you presumably know what that means. But for some of our listeners, that they release only a portion of what's available just to appease the public and to hopefully put a cap on things so that attention can
Oh,
then be diverted elsewhere.
yeah, and it's something I discuss on my radio show quite a bit. I'm uh, personally familiar with Nick Pope. I've appeared
Oh,
on his television.
oh,
Yeah, he's got
great.
a TV show that's produced by Forbidden Knowledge. Billy Carson from Ancient Aliens
He's cool. He's really,
started his own.
yeah. Nick Pope.
Yeah, started his own network, and Nick Pope has a program on there, and he flew me out to Fort Lauderdale to appear on the program, and I got to know Nick really well. We went out to dinner and had drinks and the whole thing, and so I can tell you that he's a completely likable, very, very nice and very sincere human being. And he recently, well, last few months, had a conversation of his between him and another major UFO researcher, leaked onto Reddit, in
Oh,
which he states, yeah, and he states in this conversation that he basically has seen the inside view, and that the reason why a lot of the secrecy still exists and these people are so reticent to come out and to tell the public about it is that it contains, quote, a truth too terrible to be told.
well, yeah, and what I'm kind of driving at, why I brought this up regarding Carter, which might dovetail with what you're alluding to, is Carter was presented and with the documents, with the secret folder, files that presidents presumably are privy to. And this is George H.W. Bush, I guess. So the story goes, head of then 1976, head of the CIA, who was president, and Carter, and reading the documents over, you may have heard the story before, but he put his head in his hands and began to weep uncontrollably. And to me, do you know what that would indicate? Do you know what that would suggest? Any guesses on your part why that would be?
I would assume that at some point they have told at least one president that we're under the gun of a non-human intelligence, that
It,
there
it,
is something in full control of this planet, and it's not us.
well, it goes further than
So,
that, though, too. That
oh yeah, I'm
that
sure.
people are actually are providing a are being harvested essentially as a source of food
Yes,
for these
absolutely.
bastards.
That's
Now,
something that's been reported by quite a few abductees.
yeah,
So,
except for that's the one thing that Linda Moulton Howe refuses to really acknowledge or touch on. Unfortunately, that limited hangout once again. It's all about the cattle mutilation, and
uh,
she's done great work in that area. But I guess it's when the whole subject of human mutilations and you know unexplained disappearances and the like, as far as
yeah.
is concerned, that because how did Sherlock Holmes, how did he approach these things, that in the sort of reductive
When you
logic, or
eliminate, when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, has to be the truth.
yeah.
And
So
it's the one axiom I absolutely live by in my investigations, because many times there is a highly improbable truth lying at the center of paranormal phenomenon. And you're right. She's done phenomenal work in the cattle mutilation phenomenon, but it's like a minute with humans in general, and even with people as hard boiled investigators as Linda Moulton Howe, there appears to be a point of this far and no further.
ah,
You know what I mean? Like they won't allow themselves to entertain that notion because it's such a dark, notion, that I think it paralyzes them.
similar to the way that so many are recalcitrant, I believe is the word, or reluctant
Uh-huh.
to call out Israel in so many instances as far as the political issues are concerned. The recent Epstein thing once again, and his role as a potential, setting up these major in, intel, Mossad, maybe CIA honey traps, where it's so with so much blackmail, and
Oh yeah, that's the reason we'll never see the Epstein list. Epstein was controlled by Mossad and the CIA, and even though he's dead, they still control the clients on that list.
yeah,
They're never going to give that list up. It's a
no,
power list.
it's
They
more, yeah,
control those people.
just like J. Edgar Hoover did, right? I mean, he had the goods on so many people, that were a part of the political superstructure, as it were. That it is more
Yeah.
blackmail material is more valuable when kept under wraps than if it was released. Then it's like Trump really does hold all the cards. If it's as provided that it's things stay the way they are. It's interesting with Dershowitz, and I'm not sure how much you cover this in with your show or with your research. And by the way, we've got maybe another half hour or so. Actually, we started late, so we'll say, I don't know, just 45 minutes looking at the clock here approximately. But feel free to take the conversation any direction you care to. Maybe we'll bring Sonia in. Now, hopefully she's been keeping a close eye on the chat end of things. I haven't had a chance to cut away. We've got you, Jack, just up here for people to enjoy your green screen, essentially, which is about as green as you can imagine, and it I think really complements the whole Bigfoot uh talk. Really, it's I'm heading back to Canada in just a couple weeks now, and it's been a while since I've seen trees like that, and uh I love the scenery, man. So
Oh yeah,
it's just
Canada's
magical, beautiful. It's beauty. They call it
gorgeous up there, but
supernatural BC is what they call it. Oh, before I forget, let me not. I don't want to pass this one up. So jumping all over the place here a little bit, but hey, that's the way things go when you're having fun with Jaffe and the crew down in Skullport Harbor. There, British Columbia. I actually connected with Art Bell on 2 occasions through Skype. It was
oh cool.
it was like the voice of God coming through to me. I was trying to hang up on the call before it kicked in, and then it suddenly just we were on air, and it's like, oh, we're live. It's like, oh man, 'cause he had such a powerful voice. And it just
Right.
blew me away. It's like, oh my God. And we had fun though, and he got a kick out of the fact that like I was in Korea, and that's probably why he went with me. It's like, oh, someone overseas, South Korea. We don't get this too often. So
Right.
but there was the one th- there's a famous story you may or may not have heard of. I first came to know about this, as I said, because we had his name was Green, as I recall, as the authors back in the day. You might have had copies of these books as well. They were like, there was a red one, I think a blue one, a yellow one, maybe a green one, but they all outlined and basically talked about these famous the Sasquatch, as we call it in Canada, Sasquatch, uh, which is a native word as far as I understand, as compared to Bigfoot. Either
Mhm.
both work. It's interchangeable. What was that Navajo term again? Once again, I like the Navajo.
Yeah, Etso.
Yeah, it's
They
so
call it Yeah Etso.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you had some bona fide trackers with you too. These guys don't they know their stuff. Like they're out there all the time. So incredible.
Oh, they did, yeah,
Yeah,
lifelong. They're taught from early
sure.
childhood.
Yeah.
These guys could track anything. Yeah.
What happened in British Columbia? This is in the coastal region, Sunshine Coast, north up into the gosh, I even forget. Just west of Williams Lake, if you look on them, Bella Coola, I guess is probably that approximate area, there was a Catholic school around the turn of the century, maybe just in the lead up to the First World War, just way 100 years ago or so now. There was a nun who was taking these young school girls out for a walk in the woods, maybe from just one location to the next. They were uh just having to, for whatever reason, make their way along this wooded path, when suddenly, so the story goes, what appeared to be a Bigfoot jumped out, grabbed one of the schoolgirls very quickly, and disappeared. I don't know if you've ever heard this story or not, but
Not that particular story, but there are other Bigfoot abduction
yeah,
stories that
but
have come to us over the years.
here's what
But yeah,
happened. Here's what happened, though. So this is, there's more to it, and simply that a few years later, and I think they were like, nobody was supposed to talk about it, of course, as these things go, especially back at that time. It's just, you just don't talk about these matters in any way whatsoever. But a few years later, or maybe, yeah, just a couple of years, not too long after, she returned back to the fold and showed up again at the school, on her own. Well, not exactly on her own. She had a little baby with her, and
mm.
but it wasn't a total human baby. It
Right.
was a kind of hybrid, and I guess the overseers, you know, the brothers, sisters, the Catholic fathers, whoever was running the school, took it into their. These were native girls as well, native Catholic school girls, as memory serves. The hybrid was taken and never and disposed of, never seen again, essentially. So who, maybe it ended up in the Vatican secret archives. I'm sure
Right.
they have a cryptozoology area, presumably. Do you know how large those the Vatican secret libraries are said to be? What sort of magnitude? What sort of scale?
Uh, oh, acres upon acres, I'm sure.
It's like 70 miles or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's
Right.
just off the charts.
Right.
Sonia, do you have anything to add to this? Anything more? That's one of the stories I shared with Art Bell. So yeah, but
Yeah,
Danny,
Art has a way of doing
come
that.
on, Dan. Art does? What are you talking about?
Yeah, of seeming like God when he calls. It's kind of what happened at my house back in the day too. He was like out of nowhere. I was like, "Who's talking?" And he was leaving a message on the recorder. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's
But yeah,
fantastic.
this is really really cool. Jack, I really like the fact that you like actually have evidence of this sort of stuff, like physical evidence, because there's a lot of folks who talk about the interdimensional yeti, and talking with them and relating with them and things like that. But this is a little bit more tangible, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated and more interested in phenomenon that leaves physical trace evidence.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and cryptozoology is one of those fields. But I was going to touch upon real fast before we get away from the cattle mutilation phenomenon. You mentioned human mutilation cases, and I investigated one of those that I chronicled in my book, Paranormal Planet. And I call it one of the two most disturbing cases in all of paranormal research. The other one is the Dyatlov Pass incident with the Russian hikers, but this is known as the Guara Paranga, Brazil human mutilation case. And this poor gentleman was discovered near a water reservoir with all of the same wounds and markings that one would find on a cattle mutilation. All of the same types of organs were removed. The anus was cored out, just like in a cattle mutilation. He was exsanguinated, just like in a cattle mutilation, had all identical wounds. Well, I was able to get the coroner's report from Brazil for this case. And in the coroner's report, he makes a few really shocking statements. Number one was the fact that this gentleman died from what he called vital reaction. That's when you suffer so much pain that your body just gives up. So he literally died from the pain of this being done to him. Number two, he said that this had been done by a machine. And most shocking of all out of his statements was that whatever kind of machine this was, it was designed to do that and nothing but that. So imagine that somewhere somebody manufactured a machine of some kind that actually caused the wounds on this human body that matches cattle mutilation wounds. That I find truly horrific.
Go. Well,
Oop, you're
listeners,
muted.
yeah, listeners can hear us now, but yeah, there we go. I was just multitasking, so no reason for major alarm. That was out of Brazil. You managed to gain the medical the examiner's report. Is that how you phrased it?
Yep. Yep. The coroner's report, and
Okay.
it's pretty shocking when he says that that a machine did it, and that whatever it was designed to do that.
Incredible.
That's shocking. It's not like somebody took a tool of a different kind and caused these wounds.
Oh
This
my
was
God.
done by something that was intended to do just that.
So, and this is harvesting adrenochrome is really, I mean, among other things, but that would be top of the list, you would think.
Quite possible.
That's what they've done until just recently. Now it's been driven underground because of laws here in South Korea with murdering the dogs, killing, strangling, beating, electrocuting.
Wow.
The most savage, brutal way you can possibly imagine killing the dogs, because they believe, those who have been involved in this industry, that you need to ignite this heightened sense of fear, so that there is a release of, I guess, adrenochrome or some exotic brain chemicals that can be harvested, and or rather, in this instance, of course, it's just that it makes the meat better for you because of the way that, with the fear being driven into them, that it enriches the meat, I guess, that the chemicals diffuse themselves throughout the meat, essentially. But
right.
so second only to the you pronounce that Dilatov mountain incident out of Russia, essentially.
Yeah. Dyatlov Pass incident is equally disturbing in that the wound suffered from those people were paranormal.
Really? So it was almost as if they were was it similar with the way?
Well, no, but their wounds were so shocking. I mean, some of these people had impact wounds, crushed bones, like they had been in a car wreck. And one of them had actually her tongue cut out of her head while she was still alive, which is crazy, right?
Oh my God.
And they had been traveling through this area known for being the indigenous habitation of the Mansi people, is what they call them. It's an indigenous people that live in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And they called this place the Mountain of the Dead for a reason. And there's literally, Mansi put up warning signs for people, don't go here,
Right.
And one of the hikers, a female in the group, actually recorded in her diary, "Now we know the snowman exists, and they published photographs from a camera that she had. And in one of those photographs, it looks like a gigantic Sasquatch of some kind peering out from behind a tree.
You're kidding.
And no, not at all. And here you have a group of people that are huddled in a tent at night with a Sasquatch, having seen them in an area known for the Mountain of the Dead. And what do? They cut a slit from the inside of the tent so they can see out. So whatever was outside that tent was scary enough that they didn't even want to poke their head out. They cut a slit to see what it was. And when they saw what it was, they took off running without their shoes. Right? That's some scary stuff. They found 2 of them frozen to death at the edge of the forest, trying to start a fire.
Is that photo that we have in the slideshow right now? I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but
nope, that's actually a picture of a creature that we refer to as Matilda, and she was in the Adrian Erickson project. And if you Google ABC News, Bigfoot is real, you'll see actual ABC News footage of them having taken DNA off of Matilda after they tranquilized her. They basically tricked her into eating some ribs that had a tranquilizer in it that they nailed to a tree.
Wow.
And she fell asleep. And Adrian Erickson, who put up $500,000 of his own money and never expected a penny in return, trying to collect that DNA, succeeded in collecting it. Then it went to these credentialed geneticists who saw that it had human DNA in it. And all of a sudden they said, oh, this has got to be a hoax. And ABC News was declaring that day, Bigfoot is real, Bigfoot is real. And we're all looking at each other like, oh yeah, we did it. This is it. This is the deal. This is the final discovery. And the next day you could hear crickets. There wasn't one mention of it on any mainstream news anywhere.
Matilda, are there any other pictures in that one?
There's quite a bit of footage on ABC News, but Adrian Erickson, after he saw the reaction and had spent all that money, decided not to release the best of the footage that he has. And he has footage, he's sitting on footage that will truly shock the world. I'm talking about like 5 individuals all walking together at close range, stuff like that. And he won't release it because everybody just says it's a hoax. So he ate the full bill for that, and tried to do what was right and tried to get the DNA evidence that would prove it to the world. But since it has human DNA in it, it wasn't good enough for the powers that be.
He forked out $500,000.
$500,000. Yep.
That's incredible. So, well, we'd like to get to this, the Enoch, I'm not sure if it's called the Enoch prophecy. Exactly. You got the one book there that Sonia herself did express an interest in us covering. Before we do that, though, Yuga Wing Chun Kenpo, not on Facebook today. Well, we should be. And last time I checked, we were. So over on YouTube is where they're coming to us there. Nephilim were half-bloods, he says. The Raidenites then got a little more blood thinnered. Not sure the Raidenites are. Take more showers. Raidenites being who exactly, Jack? No idea.
I've not heard the term Raidenite before. I'll have to look that one up.
So yeah. Once again, just a general reminder to our listeners, we have no super chat feature in place. YouTube refuses to allow us to qualify for monetization. They we finally managed to reach that 1,000 member subscriber threshold, and they almost immediately told us that they felt we were not. There was something about what we provide that just didn't. I don't know what it was exactly. Didn't suit their purposes or didn't complement what the overall agenda that they were aiming to pursue and implement. So in some ways it could be a badge of honor, but the bottom line, of course, is that we do appreciate the PayPal donations, folks. Sharing of links, of course. Uh, Engaging us over on Patreon, checking out the merchandise we have available, and so on and so forth. Half of everything going directly back to charity. Hashtag WWRHD. What do you have, Jack, as far as via your website, the podcast you do? Do you have any like a Patreon or PayPal or merch?
Patreon, I will have up pretty soon. I recently launched on the side. I'm also a professional artist, so I'm a known painter, and I have paintings showing in galleries. But I have an art website, jackcaryart.com, where you can purchase a painting that is one of a kind, or I also do professional paranormal consultation. And you can reach me anytime at paranormal-experts.com. And you can actually book a consultation right there on the screen. And if you have a case out there, if you're experiencing a phenomenon, if you want to talk to somebody that's been doing this for 30 years, and give you some direction, some insight as to what you might be dealing with, I'm always available, and you can find me at that site. And that is paranormal-experts.com.
Good stuff. I'm starting to think that maybe Cary is your middle name, and you're actually not giving us the full truth here. Surname Whack. Yeah. Do you know why? Do you know why? Well, think of Jack Cary Whack, and you're actually
Kerouac.
you're that beat writer that never died. How about that?
That's right. That's right.
If you're holding back on us, Jack Cary Whack. So, and some people would say, based on the work and activity that you're involved in and so committed to, that there would be a lot of whack to it all, indeed. But I don't know. It's one of those things. It seems like you don't shy away from debate or discussion. Have an open forum where you know take on any of the naysayers, I suppose, and providing evidence. Because you do approach things in a as scientific manner as possible, presumably. Critical thinking.
As much as humanly possible. And
Right.
I understand skepticism completely. Most people have to actually experience paranormal phenomenon before it kind of slaps them in the face. And I I always know I have a good case when the witness starts to make profound life changes because of what's occurring to them.
Indeed.
Then you've got something real, and that
Well,
happens time and time again.
near-death experiences is a clear example of that very thing. People coming back and they're just not the same person they were before, and nor do they fear death in any way.
Right.
So, yeah.
And if you pay attention to all the remote viewing groups out there, time and again, they come back telling us that lives are infinite. You live an infinite number of them.
But is that a good thing?
Right. Well, it's like every life we come back, we're kind of working through the karma of a previous life.
There you go.
So,
And yeah, from the Buddhist perspective, two main goals. Number one, making friends with yourself. That's where the yoga comes in. Meditation, breathing, relax, make friends with yourself, and letting go, of course. But ultimately liberating yourself from the wheel of rebirth. Like you want to stop coming back. It's like I don't want to keep coming back. Yeah. Get on the carnival ride. Is this really all that much fun? I mean, it's kind of is this as good as it gets?
right.
There's some
Well,
people.
it could be we're inhabiting a prison. This might be a prison planet. There are
Ah.
indications.
Mhm.
There are some disturbing indications out there.
Right. Yeah. Who then are the soul suckers besides the likes of Les Wexner and and company?
Right. Who are the alien overlords that have us imprisoned on this planet? We get little glimpses of what they might be, but I've been exploring theoretically the possibility, the model that the Earth might already be owned by a Type 3 civilization, a civilization that, according to a lot of our physicists, should exist. At least one planet in the Milky Way by now should have survived, should be so advanced and so old
Hmm.
that it should have colonized the entire galaxy. And
Mm-hmm.
my argument is, well, maybe they did. And maybe all the UFO activity you see is us being farmed back into this superior Type 3 civilization.
Hmm. Wow. This is leaving me with a lot to reflect on and think about. So
Right.
I'll tell you one thing though that recently heard. You may have come across your radar as well, but the theory that we are actually living inside a giant black hole. The
Yes. Yes.
astrophysicist. Did you hear? Have you heard about this?
Absolutely. I have a great, there's a lot of articles out there if you Google about the fact that they took a very large picture of all of the visible galaxies. And you look at the picture and you think it's a picture of a starry sky, right? There's just millions upon millions of them, but they're galaxies. So every galaxy's got billions of stars in it, right? That's how vast it is. But
Ah,
the
yeah.
problem is, the problem is that they're all rotating in the same direction, and that shouldn't occur unless you're inside of a black hole.
Oh wow, wow, wow. And that's the symbol of the swastika. Actually, it has got a lot to do with that as well. From what I understand, that it somehow is synchronized or configures the with the turning the galactic, I guess the axial part of the galaxy, basically. Or could you elaborate a little further? Do you know much about this? Have you reflected or thought about, because I
I've not
speak
heard that specific thing about the
right,
swastika, but a
right.
little known fact about the Nazi Party and the occultists who were largely responsible for Hitler is the fact that they must have had access to ancient writings, because when a lot of the tablets, cuneiform tablets, were translated from Ashurbanipal, which was the palace they were found at, most people don't realize they found 500,000 cuneiform tablets at Ashurbanipal from Samaria. It details every tiny little detail of Sumerian life, right? And in that, when they begin to talk about the Anunnaki, those who came from the sky, they say that different Anunnaki gave birth to the different races on the planet, right? And the Anunnaki being that was said to give birth to the Aryan race was a being whose name was Nasi, Nasi, as it would be translated. And there's every reason to believe that the Nazi occultists knew that fact, and that's why it actually became the Nazi Party.
Well, hang on. Let's put the brakes on that for just a moment. Run that by us one more time. Who was this Nasi?
Yeah, so there's ancient Sumerian tablets that talk about the Anunnaki, which
Yeah.
was a non-human race of beings who they claim genetically altered the human species, but
Mhm.
also they claim that various Anunnaki basically gave birth to different races around the planet, and the one that was said to give birth to the Aryan, race was a being called Nasi, Nasi.
Oh, I see. Well, I wonder if there's any. Well, in some ways, it's not Nasi. It sounds like Gnostic, maybe Naga, but Gnostic, but also the Ashkenazi. That's really interesting. Looking at that term, essentially the grouping of the where that came from, how that arose. The Ashkenazi uh, Jews, and how a lot of people are not aware of this, but apparently it means in Yiddish, it means German.
Oh,
German.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Careful with the background noise there, Jack, when you're adjusting your seat and so forth. It's coming
Yeah,
through pretty
I had to
strong.
plug in my computer real
Yeah.
fast. There you go.
I know I've got a lot going on here with the cat and everything too. I've got him sedated right now. He's very high maintenance, this guy. So, but anyways, let me go through the comments here, and then we'll get you guys back on screen. So Linda Moulton Howe says Yugo Wing Chun Kenpo. Sounds like this is some sort of martial arts kind of character. The Unexplained with Howard. Oh, I I think I might have met that guy in Nelson, BC, actually, and we'll just leave it at that. A guy with a very, very deep voice, British fellow. A special. I met him in a pot shop. He's a biker too. These people get back to me, folks, if you know about him and the fact that he he enjoys motorbikes and whatnot. But talked about first finding he discovered Brian Adams back in the day was what he said, and that should definitely look him up at some point. Just drop him a line. A special update from acclaimed veteran investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe. We talk animal and human mutilations, exotic materials. So Linda has discussed human mutilations, but it's not, of course, what she's known for. Yeah, so she will go there, but only if very, much hard pressed doing so. This is another interesting comment, courtesy of Zane Ivy. Apparently, there's historical accounts of Daniel Boone killing a Blackfoot, or I'm Blackfoot. What the hell am I doing here? Bigfoot with black feet, presumably, back in the day with his son on a hunting trip. That's quite a story, isn't it now? So, do you know anything about that, Jack? Daniel Boone.
I have heard that story before. I don't know what to make of it, but it is interesting.
Roger Hansen here.
Yeah.
Roger Hansen saying he listens to Jack all the time. A message to both.
Yay. Well, thanks, Roger.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I love your we for the love of God, just arrest somebody. Pat Bondi, she's gonna take the fall. She's gonna have to. They're gonna make her take the fall, have her fall on the sword, as it were, and we'll just watch and see what happens here. So, I really did this whole thing clearly, and the way it rattled Trump. With that. Oh, you're still talking about that creep Epstein, the creep that you spent. You kind of cavorted and partied with for quite a few years, but then finally did part ways with it at the right time, I guess. Anyway, U.S. scientists firing Zeus laser producing more power than Earth's electricity. I'm like, was that one of your memes as well? The Zeus laser?
Yeah, I'm sure it was from a long time ago.
Whoa! Do you know anything about that?
Well, it's one of those new directed energy weapons that we are said to possess, but
Wow.
That's going to change the face of warfare altogether if we really have them up there. Not to mention if we have the so-called rod of God. Have you ever heard of that?
Yep. Yeah. So German archaeologists did extensive work on Assyrian sites before the Nazi Party. Well, yeah, and likes of oh gosh, why 7 years in Tibet. Herman Herrer, was that his name? No, it was Heinrich Herrer. Heinrich Herrer, I believe. 7 years in Tibet, starring Brad Pitt back in the day, of course. So, yeah, interesting stuff. There's no doubt about it. And then there's no doubt as well too that they were very much invested in and taken by, well, like what was it, the Thule Society, and Yeah, I had a dream about this a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, actually. The Thule and what was the other one that was quite famous in Germany at the time?
The Vril Society.
There we go. The Vril Society.
Yeah.
So the dream I had, I dreamt of those long-haired ladies and being, I don't know if I was abducted so much. And we got to remember too, I just I don't believe for a minute that all aliens, interdimensionals, angels, if you want to call them that, like they're all demonic, or that they have bad intentions. I can't see that, similar to the way that people are, or
Right.
every country has good people and not so good people, and every, so it just really depends on what we're looking at. But the Vril, yeah, I was abducted, and was I abducted, or did I don't know. I just more of, it was where I was supposed to go. Went onto one of their craft a couple weeks ago. Basically, it was a good, things were cool. It was great, just kind of looking around, checking things out, scoping out the territory, and uh who knows exactly what the deal was there. Now, did that have anything to do with remote viewing, perhaps? Abilities. Robert Morningstar, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. You've probably heard of Robert. We'd like to maybe get you on a show. I work sometimes as co-producer, but also co-host with his Monday evening shows, 10 p.m. Monday nights. He also has a Sunday afternoon show via the RBN and Revolution Radio. So,
Great.
but he's talked about, and he has a larger reach and audience than what we do here. I just, I must confess, but yeah, remote viewing is one of the things that he talked about back in the day because of precognitive things like with the Trump assassination, which it's about a year now when that all went down, and I was having myself I was having visions in my head. I was seeing him being uh his, potentially exactly what happened in Butler, even worse potentially, and doing, I guess, all I could to uh let the universe know that wasn't really a good idea. So, and then that
Mm.
that was in the lead up. That was in the lead up to the whole thing. This has happened before as well. You could say it's just coincidence or what have you, but some people are just a little more sensitive. I'm, not as sensitive as many others who are just totally out there. But there's been, oh, I know, the day before the October 7th business kicked off, I had a dream, which sort of, you could see just because I'm not sure if you've ever woken up from a dream and it's just a feeling that carries over, that it's like something is not right. You know, maybe someone
Mhm.
has passed away, or someone's in danger, or you can also have good dreams, like where you have more positive feelings once again. So, but yeah, there was a definitely precognitive, I would argue, uh, phenomenon, something taking place there at that time, just the day before October 7th. Uh, and Robert, his comment was perhaps, remote viewing, although I don't understand remote viewing in that context at all. But, the world of dreams and astral travel, as they talk about, and whatnot. So, have you ever had or experienced anything of the sort? Have you written on dreams or precognitive
Well,
phenomena?
I've done extensive historical research on remote viewing and still follow the findings of the most premier remote viewing groups that are out there today. The best is probably the Future Forecasting Group, headed up by Dick Algier, who has roots going back to the original CIA Stargate program. And today they use remote viewing to predict crypto prices for cryptocurrencies
Ah,
mainly. but they also blindly target other targets from time to time and come up with some pretty fascinating things. But basically, it's interesting because remote viewing works on blind targeting. So the people that are doing the viewing never know what the target is. The only thing they're ever told about the target is a random serial number chosen by the tasker, which is the person who chooses the target. That's it. So when you have like 8 out of 9 people all come back with the same small details in their viewings on a target, um, there's usually a high probability that they're right. And they basically discovered that anybody can learn to remote view. It appears to be an innate human psychic ability,
Hmm.
which calls into question really our notions of what time really is, what space and time really are, because they appear to be more of an illusion than anything.
Sure, of course, big time. Yeah, absolutely. They're a total illusion. I mean, think about how it is that we're born into this world from out of nothing, for lack of a better, way of putting it. We're thing, phenomenon, uh, folding in on itself and then folding out of itself. I'm not sure which is which exactly. I've yet to get my head wrapped around it, but the Beatles within you and without you, and this whole thing of, I mean, Sonia, do you have something you'd care to add? The way, emerging from the mother's womb, growing from just a small embryo into something which, as we are appearing to be real, we're said to be containers of sorts, some sort of spiritual energy, light, maybe. Who knows exactly?
Containers
Oh
of
my God.
souls. That's
Yeah,
what the aliens often refer
Mm-hmm.
to humans as, the
Containers. Yep.
containers of souls.
soul
Yeah.
containers. Okay, so and what is this soul then exactly? As compared to the ego. Let's try to be clear now.
Right.
I mean, is there anything beyond the soul? You know?
I don't know, but if they're right, then maybe the soul is eternal. That their abductees come back telling us that these aliens are able to grow a container, a soul container, in basically vats of liquid that they see, and they're able to transfer consciousness from soul container to soul container without ever experiencing death as you and I know it to be. So
Wow. Isn't that something? So I think that's where we're at right now too. In fact, there have you seen there's certain videos out there. I mean, there's just so much going on in the world right now. It's just utterly crazy. And there's so much that's been, because this is the age of apocalypse, as far as I'm circumcised, age of apocalypse. And Sonia really, she loves that one. Circumcision reference. She just totally just like, her ears perk
It's
up, and
beautiful.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
uh,
very Hebrewish.
wasn't my choice. Wasn't my choice. Blame my parents. Like, and they're not even Jewish. They're just like, it wasn't. This is what everybody does, right? So yeah, total like trauma, even at that stage for the child. If I was to ever have children, boys, no circumcision. Bloody hell, no. It's a fraud. I just don't buy it at all. It's like, yeah, keep it, sanitization, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. It's all a fraud. Don't buy it. But yeah, it's said to be. It's like, oh, the mark, the tribe of David, or what have you. So, okay, but
yeah.
that's, well, but
That's how the Elohim, which we're an alien race, that's how they marked their herd,
oh my
was
God,
that particular Elohim that controlled the Hebrew people back then. That's how he marked his particular herd.
that
So
that was the God but the Elohim were plural too, correct?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Elohim appear to have been an alien race, and there were many of them. There are
Oh,
even some web-bot indications that there could be some surviving Elohim in Antarctica, which is a show in and
oh,
of itself, but
oh,
fascinating indications. Yeah.
total series. Yeah, it's crazy. Antarctica. We just had Brad Olson on a couple weeks ago, actually, and so
Oh, great. Yeah,
yeah.
Brad's a friend of mine. So
Hmm.
yeah, we actually got to speak at the same conference that guy was putting on for ancient civilizations.
That
So
wasn't in Sedona recently, was it?
no, this was actually in Boulder, Colorado, when they had their big ancient civilizations convention a few years ago.
Are you familiar with the Naropa Institute out of Boulder?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, you should be. You're Jack Cary whack. Don't forget that,
That's
right?
right. That's
Jack.
right.
Yeah,
I
it's a
like
kid.
it.
Jack
That'd
Cary.
be a good X handle. A good handle for me on X.
I guess whatever. If yeah, sure. Just make sure you heard it here first, folks. So that's trademark and the whole business. But yeah, because it is known Naropa, the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, I think is the title essentially. Back in the day,
Nice.
they had the likes of Ginsberg, Burroughs, all the old beats, Gregory Corso, and Kesey was through their time. All these like out there kind of counterculture figures, and say what you like, they're easy targets, of course, but if you listen to the lectures that they offered on just in a strictly literary sense, they were knowledgeable people in their own right, and they produced the literary material to back it up. So it's just
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Kerouac himself, though, just really sad the way he ended up. Why he's so just, I think he was bipolar, just miserable and drinking himself to death. He died. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but yeah, like this internal hemorrhaging, which
Wow.
could,
Wow. No, I
could
wasn't aware of that, but yeah,
you start
Jack Kerouac's On the Road is an American masterpiece of writing.
the
So
the Dharma. Don't forget the Dharma bums. That's my
yeah,
favorite. That's
yeah.
my favorite Kerouac book, actually. So, well, I mean, there's so many other places we could take the conversation. I think we've done a heck of a job here, and we've had Svetlana drop in. She's out there working her garden. It sounds like via Alberta, and enjoying hopefully a lot of the quality weather. Sans the any chemtrail spraying, which according to Chat GPT is all just a conspiracy theory. None of it really exists. Now, of course, and all the Epstein client files, client, none of that exists according to Chat GPT either. So everything that's pro-establishment and supports their narrative, only those
Uh-huh.
things, for whatever reason, are
Oh yeah.
functioning, within the Chat GPT sphere. Although, well, we got you here, Sonia. You're saying that you can jailbreak the AI on your computer somehow. So we got to get together on that here before too long.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
that's a thing. I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I've heard other people have done that. So
I see. Okay, I think
kind of like
actually,
jailbreaking your phone.
excuse me, like jailbreaking your phone. Yeah, and I think Jack would be the guy who might know a little bit about that, given his background in with working on the nuclear submarine. And when did your stint or 4-year contract come to an end exactly,
Oh my
Jack?
God, that was what 96.
Okay,
So
all right. Yeah, I first came here in 2002, so 96. I was had just shortly prior to that graduated from university. So, but wow, but you do have a specialty. I'm not sure how much of it you maintain to this, you know, stage of your life, this point in time. But
yeah,
crypto.
I was amazed to find out when I got out of the Navy that nobody needed a encryption communications expert.
Oh,
It was
come
hard.
on.
You know, it
It's
was funny. I could have gone to work for the NSA. They do offer you a job when you have that kind of security clearance dealing with communications encryption with the NSA. But guess what? It started off at $17,000 a year plus your room and board. So you basically live at Fort Meade in Maryland and work for them, but you're not making anything. You're making peanuts. So
jeez, that's
yeah,
terrible. That's lousy. So they probably outsource a
loud.
lot of that work then, presumably bring in the third world, just slave, for foreign
Well,
laborers
today,
basically.
back then they had 15 acres of what they called Cray supercomputers that they use to collect data. And now you can imagine with artificial intelligence what they've got, and their abilities now just must be completely amazing.
Are you talking quantum
But
computing
well, now they
or
must have
or
quantum
or
computing, but
metadata?
back
Just
then,
collection of metadata.
right. Well, their AI is probably so advanced it's able to pull almost anything out. A lot of what the CIA even does today is considered OSINT, which is open source intelligence gathering.
Right?
The intelligence theory is that really anything you want or need to know is out there in some form of information. And if you know how to mine that data properly, you can pretty much extract any kind of knowledge you want about any secret.
Yeah.
So,
Ask the right questions. Yeah, that's right. Poke around in the right places and talk to the right
right.
people. There you go. That's right. So, well, it's Reverend Jim. It's funny with Reverend Jim. We just talked about Svetlana showing up a few moments ago. Sonia, Reverend Jim, he, we can't see him. You can, from what you're telling us, but he does not show up for us here. He doesn't register on D Live at all, not in any way whatsoever. And we don't get notifications of his show ever going live. So we got to go check and see if they've turned the notifications off again. It's happened, I think, 2 or 3 times now on D Live where we've had to do that. So YouTube is notorious for that, of course, along with throttling down the numbers that like you see, oh, we got 150 views, and then the next day you look back, it's like, oh, we got half of that now. What happened there? It's like something. There
Yeah.
have
Take
algorithms.
screenshots.
Well, exactly. So, Mr.
Hmm.
Jack Cary, we could carry on with this conversation for some time. We're not going to burden you with that. However, it's been a great pleasure. Um, Anything that you would like to leave us with other than the fact that, and thank you to Mark. I don't know if we explicitly gave him a shout out or not. Uh, of Dreagus Productions, his new friend and colleague of ours. Thanks largely to, was that Sonia that helped bring Mark to the table here?
It's
And
Roger.
Roger did that. Roger
Roger
Hanson.
introduced me to Mark.
Oh, well,
So there
yeah,
you
it's
go.
all one big happy family now and growing. So that's the way.
Yeah.
It's organic, just synergetic networking and cross fertilization. Good stuff. So, Jack, 7 p.m. Central, I believe, Wednesday nights. Do I have that right?
That is correct, sir. So join us every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central. We jump down another deep, dark rabbit hole and we explore new exotic theories to fit the available paranormal evidence stream coming at us from all over the world. So,
Paranormal Intelligence Agency, hashtag PIA. We can have some fun with that, I suppose, but we'll leave that for another time. So, yeah. Enjoy your weekend, Jack. Hopefully we can do this again at
Thanks,
some
Jack.
point. And
sure. Yeah,
all
thanks for having me on, guys.
okay. Well,
Mhm.
happy sailing.
You,
Fantastic.
you as well.
Okay. Good night. So we are off then to, I'll cue up the outro, but let's take one final look here at what we've got as far as comments are concerned. I think we pretty much covered it all. Thanks. Thanks once again to everyone who did drop by, of course, and helped carry the show along. Your comments, thoughts, questions, and the like, always very much valued. Once you get those security clearances, though, says Zane, you can start hopping around between Raytheon, etc., if you want to sell your soul. Well, yeah, that is true. Although, I mean, the way I look at it, things are at the stage now. You have weapons on one side. You need to have weapons on the other in order to provide a counterbalance, counter deterrent, I guess. My background is not military strategic or anything of the sort, but it seems just basic common sense would suggest and indicate. Look at what happened here in Korea. Watch, viewing now the map of ancient Korea pop up on the screen. The Korean War, there was a power vacuum. And because of that, certain people took advantage. And history would suggest that if you want to produce conditions that are rife for war, do all you can to orchestrate and engineer a power vacuum. Things will start to get become a little more problematic, of course. So it's a lot more complicated than that. And from what I understand, who's that famous general? Not Sun Tzu, but the European general. Oh, bloody hell. I'm not sure if he explicitly talked about this or not. Probably. But you never want to go to war. I mean, and these are psychopaths really at the highest levels anyways. I mean, give me a break. People, habitual, incurable liars. There's nothing you can say good about what power does to people, unfortunately. And as the Bible talks about, Old Testament, which I'm not a huge fan, but there's wisdom to be found wherever one chooses to look. It's not money per se that is the root of all evil, but the love of money that the Bible explicitly states is the problem. Trump has never been, he within the context of him claiming to be a Christian man, whether it's God-fearing or what exactly, I have no idea. I think he's got his own unique way of looking at things. But anyone of that, the prosperity gospel and so forth, the love of money. Look at Kenneth Copeland, for crying out loud. You talk about people who are demonically possessed. I mean, not that we all aren't, because I would argue we are. And it's a question of, that we've got to keep our spiritual house in order, work to exercise daily. Every breath we take, we should be exercising. Question is, of course, how do you spell that? Anyways, exercise. I guess that's a homonym, like prophet or trader. How do you spell those words? How do you spell prophet? How do you spell trader? How do you spell exercise? So, but just getting back to the show, though. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the whole ufological angle. I love those ghost stories. Can't believe he hasn't written 10 books and he hasn't provided the public with anything outlining, detailing his childhood growing up in a haunted house. I mean, that's just classic. That's a book waiting to be written, isn't it? And so much more too. It could easily work. It was great. What he shared with us, the two drunk little the wayward carnival midgets ended up, for whatever reason, peering into his window at night, staggering away in the mist. They'll be back. They'll be back. Yeah, I had a similar type experience back in the day, but it was, I seem to recall, I don't know, it could be, it's one of those things, false memory syndrome, or just something that sticks with you and that over time it's thought, maybe even just expected, that you will, completely forget about. Innocence and experience. Around the time I was maybe 7, 8, 9 at the old, at the latest. But, and it happened on several nights too, by God, as memory serves. That's the thing about it. And I looked it up later on the internet, and a lot of other people talk about this. It has been known to occur, and at that age. Weird. I'm not going to describe what I saw. I'll leave it at this. Most people are familiar with the ring wraiths from out of the Lord of the Rings. That's, as from what I recall. I mean, were they Tibetan lamas? I don't know. I don't think so. That would be pushing it. No, pretty sure it has, more of the ring wraith type visage and vibe. So there's more that we could share with you over time, but that's where we'll leave it at present. And everyone, presumably, if they think about it, has had some strange, peculiar experience in their life, making it at least something of an adventure. So do check out his show, Jack Cary, with the Paranormal Intelligence Agency via the Dreagus Productions, 7 p.m. Wednesday nights. We'll be back here, of course, this coming Tuesday evening with World Pirate Radio News. Just 2 more weeks of shows to produce and present to you, and we'll be taking a couple weeks off for our overseas special mission adventure. Looking forward to that in a big way. Be sure as well to check out our archives via BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey. Never too sure if Facebook or YouTube are going to, try and pull the sort of nonsense that they're all too well known for. Just have to see how it all plays out. Unfortunately, hey, also guess what? We are back on X. Can you believe it? Isn't it's a miracle? Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Back on X and Discord as well. So poor Pat, was it Pam Bondi? Man, can you imagine Matt Gates? Do you really think that he would have released the Epstein client list had he been in the position, held the title of Attorney General? I wouldn't be so convinced necessarily. Bongino's, he's got to be pretty pissed off. A lot of frustration right now. I think Trump, this could cause problems, major problems for his presidency, frankly. But, you can bet. Look, we're talking Les Wexner, Barack Obama, as it's now even recently come out, allegedly, Virginia Giuffre, talking about Obama being on Orgy Island, Lolita. I'm not sure if he flew so much on the Lolita Express, but Orgy Island, and not so much into the underage girls, essentially. But boys, that was more his thing. Can you believe it? Likes of Tom Hanks and George Clooney. Who knows what exactly they were up to? She did not detail too much of their activities, but she did call out Obama, someone who's long been known to well, is it Larry Sinclair? I mean, we knew about him. We were talking about him for years before he ever showed up on Tucker, with the whole Epstein business as well, talking about this. I mean, just have to look no further than the Franklin scandal and cover up, realizing that there's so much that goes on in this, as far as political blackmail is concerned. As the old saying goes, last thing as a politician or public figure that you want to have happen is end up in bed with either a dead prostitute or an underaged child. So, yeah, political blackmail, sexual political blackmail. I guess you could have other forms too, but there we go. I really do think this is going to, my prediction, could be wrong. My sense is this is going to, Trump has got to do something to resolve things. He's not going to be able to, because the public is going to remain steadfast. And the problem therein is the fact that the potentiality is that more chaos and upheaval and distractions could be unleashed in order to, through the mainstream corporate mockingbird media, try to divert the world's attention from the whole Epstein business and all that it entails. So we're talking, who knows? They've got all sorts of tricks up their sleeve, don't they? Just in the same way, it would seem that as the phony scamdemic was petering out, all hell started to break loose via the Ukraine. Putin, the young global leader, who had been groomed, recruited back in the day under the ever watchful eye of Klaus Schwab, aka Rothschild. His mother supposedly was a Rothschild. He basically made the decision he did at the time that he did in order to provide distraction from Nuremberg 2. How many millions of people needlessly lost their lives. The eugenicists. I had a biology teacher back in the day, taking some electives in little central British Columbia city called Prince George. And just to kind of put a cap on things as far as my, I was working on maybe getting a teacher certificate or something like that. Whatever it took to get the job done is one thing after the next. So it was like 3 electives. Statistics and probability they were all a lot of fun, but I took them and did them because I had to try and obtain the desired set of credentials, which I don't think ever came to light. Not exactly, but that's a story all on its own. Statistics and probability. Geography of British Columbia was really cool. I never really understood what geography entailed until I studied that, took it on as an elective. It was quite fascinating. And finally, biology, which, that was great too. I guess you could say in many ways, as any person should be, really open to learning new things of all various sorts. You might major in one area, but why not, why not be interested and open to learning, new subjects or different exploring different areas that you have yet to traverse, as it were. So, but my biology instructor, what he said was that they had tried to recruit him into a sort of a eugenicist club. They wanted him on board and this is privately. He took me aside as class was ending. I don't recall him announcing this to everyone in attendance at the time. It was just me for some reason. Maybe I struck him as someone who was asking interesting questions, or who knows. But yeah, social Darwinism, population control essentially was what it all had to do with, and killer viruses producing, sort of weaponizing viruses that could effectively eliminate a significant portion of the world's population. So we saw that clearly in place during the scamdemic. No doubt about that, folks. So, and if you're not on board with that, or if you take exception to that, let us know. Pirate1Radio@protonmail.com. That's our main email address. It's also how you help us out via PayPal. If you have any show suggestions or guest ideas in mind you'd like to see us showcase here over the course of the coming months, the balance of 2025. Can you believe it? We're halfway through this wonderful year already. And isn't it, if ever there was a time to be alive, the apocalypse, eh? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. That's where many of us currently find ourselves. There's no doubt about that. So, check out the merch. Check out our Patreon. Check out all the show description links that we have available. Keep in touch. Don't be strangers to the show. We're happy to bring pretty much everyone on board, connect with you in one manner or the next. If you have any hot breaking news items or tips, you name it, let us know. We're here. We're all ears. Red Pill Nation Hangout. Shout out to Deroki5. Thanks for that great, show icon that you put together. And, we saw floating out there via the interwebs just a couple days ago. More than happy to add that to the slideshow. There's one of Jack's memes. Paranormal Intelligence Agency, hashtag PIA. Trying to think what kind of fun we could have with that one. PIA. Okay, that creep song I mentioned a while ago to Jeff was called Hazard by Richard Marx. I don't remember you mentioning any creep song. But anyways, creepy song. Okay, Richard Marx, huh? I guess he's quite a songwriter, isn't he? Bitchin' t-shirts, galacticfire.com. Don't forget about that. So, and let's see what Zane's got to offer here. Buddhists are not supposed to have anything to do with making, selling weapons, although, of course, some of the Vajrayana Maha cities violated that injunction along with other rules. Okay, point taken, Zane. Yeah. According to various interpretations, right livelihood involves abstaining from professions that exploit, deceive, or harm, such as dealing in weapons, intoxicants, or living beings. Yeah, the old skin trade, huh? Well, what I was getting at, though, more than anything, was people who are involved in that industry, you need to have sufficient arms provided to both sides, both north and south, lest there be a imbalance, and from that then instability. The one of the big issues at present, of course, is just the level of lethality, just how deadly the weapons have become, and which, is it all on a purely scientific basis, as it were, organically arising, or maybe, Colonel Philip Corso the day after Roswell. There's more to that than what most people realize. Anyways, we will pick up the conversation on the flip side here once again. 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 out on the East Coast. Shout out there to Pirate Larry, the late, great Pirate Larry, and his band of Baja-based musical hombres and amigos, Pirates of God. We're on a mission from God. Let there be no mistake about that. Kind of like in the way the Blues Brothers, the greatest Catholic movie ever made, according to Pope John Paul II. Not that we're Catholics per se, but on a mission from God, whatever the case. Liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit notifications, subscription buttons, helping to pass word along to friends, family, and coworkers. On behalf of Captain Long, John Sinclair, and all the rest of the crew here down in Skullport Harbor, I'm your host, Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, reminding you that until we meet again via these high, often all too intrepid digital seas, keep your ear to the ground and eyes to the sky. Tally-ho!
Aye now, there we be. Having carefully looked over each of our navigation panel instruments,
checking every level, switch, dial, cable, knob, and pulley, by all accounts and indications, we indeed see it's time, once again, to drop anchor inside Mystic Bay.
Draw an end to yet another week of World Pirate Radio Live.
Remember,
If you're looking for a little more animated online action,
keep in mind we've likely got yet another great free-flowing Rogues Gallery after show
coming up for the next hour in one of our more premium exclusive and remote digital underground online pirate hideaways. Also, if you yourself have a new,
novel, intriguing, or otherwise underreported idea, unique individual, or pressing item in mind, be sure to either drop us a line directly over on WPRPN.com or fire us a quick email
via Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com.
We're always open to exploring fresh creative suggestions, intriguing guest ideas, cutting-edge discussion topics, and captivating themes.
Remember, WPRPN.com member site subdomain links are also always available.
Great for artists, musicians, podcasters, bloggers, social media personalities,
or pretty much just any old landlubber
looking to boost their online visibility, presence, and reach.
Basic personal profile accounts can be launched for just $60 per year.
Staking your claim now helps not only strengthen you and the network, we're also looking out for the little guy. That's right, folks. As much as half of all WPRPN's profits are redirected right back into the hands of the people who really need it most. Community charity. After all, we are the Robin Hood.
You can further embark on your own personal pirate journey by either liking, sharing,
commenting on, subscribing to, or just following us via virtually any mainstream social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook,
Gab,
or Minds.com. So don't forget to become engaged. Until we meet again out on the high digital seas, I'm your host as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Tally-ho.